Most men think retention fails because of weak will. They're wrong. Retention doesn't collapse first in the body. It collapses in fatigue. You can read every ancient text. You can avoid every trigger. You can swear discipline with absolute conviction. And still fail, quietly, repeatedly, if your sleep is broken, your food is poor, and your rest is non-existent. Because retention is not a moral act. It is a biological load. And the body always collects its debt. This script is not about techniques. It is about why the foundation is ignored. Why effort increases while results decay. And why men confuse resistance with strength. If you are tired, underfed, overstimulated, and constantly pushing through, retention will not elevate you. It will expose you. Let's begin where most never look. Retention does not reduce stress. It concentrates it. When sexual release is removed, the nervous system does not relax by default. It reallocates energy. Pressure that was once discharged now stays inside the system. This is not a problem, unless the system is already overloaded. Sleep deprivation raises baseline cortisol. Poor nutrition destabilizes blood sugar. Lack of rest keeps the nervous system in a low-grade fight-or-flight state. Now add retention. What happens? The same stressors that were once tolerable become intolerable. Impulse control weakens. Mental noise increases. Cravings intensify, not just sexual, but emotional. This is why men say, "I was doing everything right, and then I snapped." Nothing snapped. The system exceeded capacity. Retention doesn't create instability. It reveals existing instability. A rested body can circulate retained energy. A fatigued body treats it as a threat. This is the critical misunderstanding. Men try to fix retention with more effort. When the failure is caused by insufficient recovery, the body is not asking for release. It is asking for relief. Sleep is not passive. It is where hormonal balance is restored. Food is not indulgence. It is raw material for regulation. Rest is not laziness. It is where pressure is metabolized instead of expressed through impulse. Without these, retention becomes compression without expansion, pressure without circulation. And pressure always finds an exit. Before discipline, the body must be capable of holding energy without panic. That is the foundation. When retention feels hardest, ask one question only. Am I resisting desire, or am I exhausted? Most men think retention is tested during the day. It isn't. It is decided at night. Sleep is where impulse control is rebuilt. Not strengthened. Rebuilt. When sleep is short or fragmented, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for restraint, judgment, and delay, weaken first. Desire doesn't increase. Control decreases. This is why urges feel louder when you're tired. Not because libido has risen, but because the brakes are worn down. Retention demands containment. Containment requires a nervous system that can return to baseline. Sleep is the only time this happens fully. During deep sleep, cortisol drops. Testosterone regulation stabilizes. Dopamine receptors resensitize. Miss this, and the system stays open, raw, reactive. Now consider what most men do. They stay up late, scrolling, watching, stimulating the nervous system right before bed. They cut sleep to wake early, believing sacrifice equals discipline. They pride themselves on functioning while tired. Then they attempt retention. What follows feels like failure. But it's not moral weakness. It's neurological debt. A sleep-deprived brain seeks relief, not pleasure. Release becomes attractive because it promises shutdown. A brief drop in internal pressure. This is why relapse often happens late at night or early morning. When vigilance is lowest. When fatigue peaks. Retention cannot override biology. No amount of intention can compensate for a brain that hasn't completed its recovery cycle. This is the hard truth. If your sleep is inconsistent, retention becomes a stress test, not a practice. You're not training mastery. You're gambling with exhaustion. Sleep is not optional groundwork. It is the primary gatekeeper. Without it, retention turns from cultivation into compression. And compression without release, through sleep, forces release elsewhere, usually through impulse. Before asking, "How long can I retain?" ask instead, "How well do I recover?" Because the man who sleeps deeply does not fight urges as often. He meets them with capacity, not resistance. Hold this question tonight. Did I prepare my nervous system to carry pressure tomorrow, or did I steal from it? Most men treat food as fuel. Calories in, calories out. Retention exposes how incomplete that idea is. Food is not just energy. It is signal. Every meal tells the nervous system whether the environment is stable or hostile, whether it can regulate, or must seek quick relief. When blood sugar is unstable, desire spikes. Not because libido is high, but because the body is searching for fast regulation. Sexual release becomes attractive in the same way sugar does. Immediate, reliable, calming. Briefly, this is why urges feel stronger when meals are skipped. Why cravings intensify late at night. Why retention collapses during long fasting combined with stress. The body does not separate sexual impulse from survival signals. It only knows imbalance. Poor nutrition increases cortisol. Cortisol suppresses patience. Suppressed patience looks like lack of discipline. But again, nothing is wrong with character. The system is under-resourced. Retention requires steady internal conditions. Stable blood sugar. Adequate micronutrients. Enough protein and fats to support hormone signaling. When these are missing, the body looks for shortcuts. Release is one of them. This is why extreme dietary restriction and retention often fail together. Both remove outlets at the same time. Pressure rises. Capacity falls. And the man interprets the collapse as personal weakness. Food is not indulgence in this context. It is regulation. Eating consistently teaches the body. There is no emergency. Only then can retained energy circulate upward, into focus, clarity, and restraint. Without that signal, retention feels like hoarding during famine. And the body will rebel. The deeper truth is simple. A fed nervous system can wait. A starved one cannot. Retention does not demand deprivation. It demands stability. Before increasing intensity, before adding rules or restrictions, ask a quieter question. Have I given my body enough to stay calm under pressure? Because when nourishment is steady, desire becomes manageable, not suppressed, regulated. Most men think rest means sleep. It doesn't. Sleep repairs the system. Rest prevents damage while awake. Rest is the absence of demand. No performance. No output. No stimulation. And this is where retention quietly fails for many. A man can sleep 8 hours, eat well, avoid triggers, and still feel pressure building. Why? Because his waking hours are uninterrupted strain. Constant mental effort. Constant stimulation. Constant self-control. Retention already increases internal pressure. When every waking moment is filled with doing, resisting, producing, or proving, there is no space for that pressure to dissipate. So it accumulates. This is the mistake. Men confuse endurance with capacity. They believe strength is the ability to push without pause. But retention requires the opposite. It requires intervals where the nervous system is not managing anything. No decisions. No suppression. No improvement. Just neutrality. When rest is missing, the mind becomes brittle. Small urges feel invasive. Minor discomfort feels urgent. Not because desire is stronger, but because the system is tired of holding. This is why relapse often follows periods of intense productivity. Not laziness. Overextension. The body seeks balance. If rest is denied consciously, it will be taken unconsciously, usually through impulse. Rest teaches the nervous system. I don't need relief. I already have it. Without rest, retention feels like holding your breath while running uphill. You might manage for a while, but the release, when it comes, will be abrupt. Rest is not weakness. It is pressure management. Short walks without a phone. Sitting without stimulation. Moments with no objective. These are not luxuries. They are circulation points. Retention does not require constant vigilance. It requires periodic surrender of effort. And this is the paradox most miss. The more you try to control everything, the less control you actually have. Before tightening discipline, loosen demand. Ask yourself today, where in my day is nothing required of me? If the answer is nowhere, retention will eventually answer for you. Most men treat sleep, food, and rest as separate self-improvement boxes. Fix sleep. Optimize diet. Schedule rest. Retention exposes why this approach fails. These are not habits. They are one recovery system. Break one, and the others weaken. Poor sleep disrupts hunger signals. Unstable food intake increases fatigue. Fatigue eliminates the capacity to rest without stimulation. Then retention is added on top, as if it exists outside the system. It doesn't. Retention raises the baseline load. The recovery triad determines whether that load is integrated or expelled. When the triad is intact, retained energy becomes mental clarity, emotional steadiness, quiet confidence. When it's broken, the same energy becomes irritability, obsession, compulsion. Same practice, different container. This is why two men can follow identical retention rules and get opposite results. One feels grounded. The other feels volatile. Not because one is stronger, but because one is recovered. Recovery is not passive. It is preparatory. Sleep prepares the brain to regulate. Food prepares the body to stay stable. Rest prepares the nervous system to hold pressure without urgency. Remove one, and retention turns into a test of survival instead of self-mastery. This is the line most never cross. Retention is not about holding semen. It is about holding charge. Charge requires insulation. Sleep, food, and rest are that insulation. Without them, energy leaks through impulse. This reframes everything. The question is no longer, how do I stop urges? It becomes, how do I build a system that doesn't panic when energy rises? This is where maturity enters. Less force. More structure. Before adding another rule, another restriction, another vow, stabilize the container. Because retention does not reward intensity. It rewards coherence. Willpower is a short-term tool. Retention is a long-term condition. This is where most men miscalculate. They believe if they just try harder, clench more, resist longer, suppress deeper, control will eventually become permanent. But willpower is metabolically expensive. It runs on glucose. It declines under fatigue. It collapses under stress. Sleep loss weakens it. Poor nutrition drains it. Lack of rest exhausts it. Then retention is blamed for the failure. In reality, willpower was asked to carry a load it was never designed to support. Willpower is meant to interrupt, not sustain. It buys time. It creates a pause. Recovery systems do the sustaining. When recovery is intact, urges don't need to be fought constantly. They arise, peak, and dissolve. When recovery is broken, willpower is forced into constant use. And constant use turns it brittle. This is why men feel strong early in retention and weak later. Not because desire grows, but because the energy cost of control accumulates. Retention doesn't require heroic effort. It requires reduced friction. A rested nervous system needs less force to say no. A fed body doesn't rush toward relief. A rested mind doesn't dramatize sensation. This is the shift. Stop trying to overpower desire. Start removing the conditions that amplify it. Discipline without recovery is strain. Discipline with recovery is alignment. And alignment feels effortless compared to resistance. The man who relies on willpower alone eventually snaps, not from lust, but from depletion. Before asking, how disciplined am I? Ask instead, how much pressure am I forcing discipline to absorb? Because the goal is not to be strong for a moment. It is to be stable for a lifetime. Retention exposes more than internal weakness. It exposes the environment. Modern life is a constant stream of stimulation. Screens, notifications, media, constant noise, all demand attention, all spike dopamine, all exhaust the nervous system. Even if sleep is perfect, food is clean, and rest is scheduled, overstimulation erodes capacity. Every alert, every image, every bite of novelty requires micro-regulation. The nervous system must adapt. Retention adds energy to that system. And suddenly, the system is overloaded again. This is why men say, I'm sleeping, eating, resting, but I still can't hold. It's not a mystery. It's a leak in the container. Energy cannot circulate freely in a system that is constantly excited. The mind remains reactive. Impulses are magnified. Cravings are louder than before. Retention does not create overstimulation. It amplifies it. The man who survives this is not the one with the most rules. He is the one who filters inputs, protects quiet, and allows the nervous system to reset naturally. Notice the pattern. Sleep restores regulation. Food stabilizes resources. Rest prevents strain. Filtered environment preserves capacity. Remove any, and retention begins to fail. This is why minimalism is a strategy for mastery, not comfort. Not because life is easier, but because the system must be uncluttered to hold energy. Modern distractions are seductive. They promise relief, novelty, and dopamine. But they hijack recovery, making retention feel impossible even for disciplined men. Retention is not resistance to desire alone. It is resistance to everything that pressures the nervous system beyond its capacity. Before blaming urges, ask, what am I allowing into my mind and body that is weakening my foundation? Because the strongest man is not the one who fights hardest, but the one who preserves the quiet necessary to carry energy. Retention is not only physical. It is deeply mental. Unresolved tension, worry, unfinished tasks, and emotional friction all accumulate energy in the nervous system. This energy is not productive. It is trapped. It is waiting for release. Even with perfect sleep, proper nutrition, rest, and a filtered environment, unresolved mental stress quietly erodes retention. Why? Because the brain interprets unresolved tension as threat. Threat demands discharge. Desire becomes a shortcut. An outlet the system can access quickly. Retention suddenly feels heavy. Urges arrive not stronger, but more insistent. This is why men relapse after stressful meetings, arguments, or even just mental overthinking. The body isn't asking for pleasure, it is asking for relief. Retention is a mirror. It shows where mental load has been ignored. The man who maintains energy is not the one who suppresses thought or emotion. He is the one who resolves tension systematically. Complete tasks that weigh on the mind. Address conflicts before they fester. Take mental pauses to integrate information instead of ruminating. When the nervous system has no pending debt, energy circulates. Retention becomes sustainable. Focus and clarity emerge. But when mental stress is left unresolved, retention becomes pressure without circulation, and the system eventually forces release through impulse. This reveals the harsh truth: discipline without mental organization is incomplete. Recovery without clarity is partial. Retention without resolution is temporary. Before blaming desire or weakness, ask, what unresolved tension is quietly sabotaging my system? The stronger the foundation of sleep, food, rest, and filtered input, the more visible these mental cracks become. Retention does not forgive hidden pressure. It exposes it. Retention is not simply about holding. It is about flow. Energy that is trapped without circulation becomes tension. Tension becomes compulsion. Compulsion leads to release. Sleep, food, rest, filtered input, and resolved mental stress create the container. But circulation is what transforms retained energy into strength, focus, and clarity, instead of frustration and obsession. Energy circulates through movement, exercise, stretching, and tension release. Mental engagement. Creative focus, learning, problem solving. Breath and nervous system regulation, moments of calm, deep breathing, and awareness. When energy flows, retention is effortless. The system is no longer compressed. Urges are experienced, observed, and dissolved naturally. Without circulation, the system remains rigid. Pressure accumulates. Willpower is overused. Fatigue increases. Relapse becomes inevitable. This explains a pattern most men miss. A man can hold for days, even weeks. Then one small stressor, skipped meal, or sleepless night triggers collapse. It is not failure of will. It is failure of flow. Retention is a living process. It thrives in an environment where energy is contained, restored, and circulated. It dies where energy is hoarded, ignored, or blocked. The lesson is clear. Stop obsessing over suppression. Stop believing discipline alone is enough. Build a system where energy naturally moves, and urges become signals, not crises. Circulation transforms retention from a struggle into a foundation for mastery. Before seeking more control, ask yourself, is my energy moving, or am I just holding it like a dam under pressure? Because mastery is not about clenching. It is about creating flow within the container you have built. Everything we've covered, the sleep, the food, the rest, filtered input, mental clarity, and energy circulation, converges here. Retention is not a singular act. It is a systemic practice. Discipline without foundation is brittle. Effort without flow is wasted. Desire without regulation becomes a teacher of failure. The man who truly masters retention does three things. 1. Builds the container. Sleep deeply. Eat deliberately. Rest consciously. Protect the nervous system from overstimulation. 2. Maintains clarity. Resolve mental tension. Reduce internal noise. Organize energy and attention before attempting control. 3. Circulates energy. Move, create, breathe, focus. Allow the retained charge to circulate naturally, rather than compressing it into stress. When these principles are aligned, retention ceases to be struggle. It becomes extension of the self, an internal economy where energy is held, transformed, and expressed purposefully. Failures along the way are signals, not judgments. Every urge exposed shows a gap in recovery, circulation, or mental alignment. The system teaches. The body instructs. The mind adapts. Retention without integration is a warning. Retention with integration is empowerment. This is the essence. Mastery is not about more effort, but about coherence. A man with sleep, nourishment, rest, clarity, and flow, he does not need to fight constantly. He is resilient, grounded, and prepared. Urges rise, and he meets them without panic. Energy accumulates. Life sharpens. Focus deepens. Retention, finally, is no longer about resisting. It is about living in alignment with natural systems. The foundation is everything. Discipline is only useful when the foundation exists. Retention is not a test of will. It is a reflection of how well you maintain your system. Sleep, food, rest, filtered input, mental clarity, and energy circulation, these are not optional. They are prerequisites. Every relapse is a teacher. Every urge is a signal. Every day without alignment is a chance to observe, adjust, and improve. Stop blaming weakness. Stop chasing motivation. Start building your foundation, and let retention follow naturally. The challenge is simple. Sleep enough to restore your nervous system. Nourish your body to stabilize energy. Rest fully to release strain. Filter inputs to protect clarity. Resolve mental tension. Circulate energy daily. Test it. Observe what changes. Measure your capacity without adding force. Retention is not a secret. It is a system you master by respecting the laws that govern your body and mind. The work is internal, continuous, and measurable. Start today. Build the container. Carry energy without panic. And let mastery emerge quietly, without struggle, without hype, without excuses. Because authority over self is earned through alignment, not effort alone.